Hi everyone, welcome to my homestead. My name is Emily and it's January, but it is 40 degrees today, so I'm taking advantage of that and I'm going to bring in some of my seed starting stuff into the house because I decided I'm going to start seeds probably in the basement this year. We have this little potting shed. When we moved in, we decided to put some of the seed starting stuff, garden stuff out here, not knowing where we were going to do everything. But it's set up to have some sort of stove in here, maybe a pellet stove or something, but it's not in here now. So I think if I started seeds out here, it would not be warm enough. At least not yet, because it's still the dead of winter. We have several months until it's going to be warm enough to put things outside. But I'm kind of excited to put some work into this sometime soon. Maybe sometime this spring or in the fall, and get this cleaned up and usable again. But I'm going to bring some of my trays into the house so we can get started in the next couple weeks starting seeds. Also such a nice day that I'm going to go over to the garden area that was established by the previous owners. It doesn't look like it had been used in a few years, but there's definitely an area that has a lot less growing in it. It's currently covered in snow right now, so we can't really see it, but I'm hoping to just kind of get a feel for how much space I've actually got to grow in so I can plan what I want to grow where. The garden area is out next to this barn here, and the dogs are probably going to be upset because they've got GPS collars and they are set where they're not allowed to go in the garden space. Otherwise, they might dig for things. They like to dig up mice and moles, and I don't want them digging up my garden. So, until we get a fence around it, which we are going to need to put a fence around it because of deer, they're going to have to learn to stay out of it. Yep, see, she just heard the beep, so she came back. But this space, pretty much from that fence post over right before those trees there, over about even with that post right there, but on this side of the trees. So that's kind of where it is now. And then there's a bit of a little hill here. And then along here there was established asparagus. If you can see way down there at the end there, there's a few of them sticking up. So there's some asparagus down there. And then I planted strawberries in this area. We'll see if they survive the winter, because we got here pretty late. It was already October 30th when we moved in, and it was already getting cold, so I used what few warm days we had left to get these strawberries transplanted and covered with some straw that I found on the property, and hopefully they will take and they survive the winter and we'll have strawberries this summer. Otherwise, we'll have to start over on that front. Measured from down there, down here, and I think probably at least 32 feet, maybe 36 feet. I mean, obviously it's impossible to tell with the snow covering everything up. I'm going to measure the other direction and kind of guess what I've got going there. So I'm going to guess that it's about 32 by 32 feet square. Of course, I won't know for sure until all the snow melts, but I mean, as you can see, I've got plenty of space. If I overestimate how much garden space I have, I can probably, till up a small area. Never actually used a rototiller before, but my parents gave me theirs. They don't use it anymore. And I don't really like the idea of tilling all the time. I know it's healthier for the soil not to do that, but for our first year or two, I'm going to go ahead and till just to get everything started, and then try to do a no-till from then on. Got one of the doggies over here. Sad that I was in the garden area without him. I don't know if you could hear him crying in the background. So now I'm on the other side of the garden, be right in that area behind me next to that barn. Behind this barn, which is fitted with horse stalls, that's where the chickens are right now. We brought them with us from Indiana in the back of my small SUV, along with the dogs. Had 16 chickens, 2 dogs, and an 11-year-old in my car for 5+ hours. And it really wasn't too bad. But we plan to move the chickens from this into this lean-to structure here. We're going to finish out the front. We have a door that we're going to put on there, a people door. And then I might actually have the opening for the chickens on the other side of it. This area that I'm standing in right now, I'm thinking will probably be a winter sacrifice paddock for cows. When we get to that point, they can have access to this barn, and we'll fence off this the rest of the way, and of course fix the fence that's currently here and not doing so great. And the cows can be in here in the winter and have hay. We would like to have a dairy cow and possibly some beef. We figured this structure will be great for the chickens once we fix it up a little bit, and we hope to do that as soon as the weather is nice enough to really work outside. It also has this little lean-to, I guess, on the side of it, and it currently has some pine shavings in it that I'm sure they used for bedding for their horses that they had. And then back behind here is the area where I think we'll put the orchard. We'll definitely have to put some deer fencing up to keep our trees from getting eaten while they're young. And I figured we could have the chickens kind of have this area. We've never done free-range chickens before. I'm not really sure that we want to. And that is for a couple of reasons. One of which is just we don't have experience with free-ranging, and the dogs aren't used to the chickens being out. They've always been able to see them. They've been in with the chickens. They go in with us into the barn when we're taking care of them, and they don't, chase them or attack or anything like that. They kind of keep their distance. But if they're just out and about and get flighty, my dogs are hound dogs, so their instinct would be to chase them. And I just don't want to put my dogs in that situation. I don't want to put the chickens in that situation. We also don't have perimeter fencing, and so, neighbors' dogs or predators could just come from anywhere onto the property, and I don't really feel safe about having the chickens just1 for that sense. And also we have some fairly old chickens. Our chickens are between 1.5 to 7 years old at least. And the older ones are all still laying, but they have been in an enclosed area their whole lives, and I'm not sure if you can teach chickens new tricks. Maybe it's a thing. Maybe they could learn, but for now, at least, we're going to keep the chickens in an enclosed area. And maybe since we're going to put the orchard in this area, they could help with, pest management, eating, fallen fruits that otherwise would just rot or would have to be managed in some way. And so the chickens could help be on cleanup duty for that in the future. Right now in this area, there's this row of honeysuckle bushes, and it goes all the way down into that stand of pine. And it's an intentionally planted row, it looks like. I mean, it's a nice straight line, and goodness sakes, I have no idea why someone would do that. Sure, honeysuckle smells fantastic, but from my experience, this looks like the Japanese bush honeysuckle. We had that in our backyard in Indiana. It was a hill, the backyard was a hill, and it was just overtaken by these. I mean, they spread like wildfire. They are almost impossible to kill, and maybe they planted them to entice deer to come out. But for some reason, they do not look like they're spreading. So either they were managing them well, intentionally keeping them beat back, or the pine trees here have prevented them from spreading. So those are going to go. We're going to cut those down and probably put the fence line around the same area, and then decide where we're going to plant trees and berry bushes. Now, as to what fruit trees we're going to be growing, I'm not really sure. I need to do some research into what grows well in this area. You know, I want to start out on the right foot, but I know it gets down to -20 in the winter on average. That's a low temperature, so we want to get something that can withstand the winters. The dog's sneaking up behind me. She's just about at the end of her fence line because it's the road back there behind these pine trees. We're going to have definitely some berry bushes, blueberries, raspberries, black raspberries, maybe blackberries. I would like to also get some gooseberries and maybe currants. However, in the state of Michigan, you have to apply for permission to grow gooseberries and currants, and you can only grow certain varieties. It has to do with some sort of pine tree disease, and of course I am surrounded by pine trees, so that makes a whole lot of sense. So that's another thing I'll need to research, is which varieties I can grow. I definitely want gooseberries though, because my grandma had a gooseberry bush growing up and I just absolutely love them. She had the green variety that's like super sour. And so I would like to have those just for nostalgic purposes. Pretty much the only thing she did with them was make a couple gooseberry pies every summer. And I would like to be able to do the same. Now, as you can see, I'm down the hill a little bit from that big barn and standing in front of one of the pastures. This one is the best fenced at the moment, and I think this is where we're going to start with putting a cow or two. So it's got these 3 strands of wire on the posts. Not all the posts are in good condition. Obviously, they're all pretty old. Not crazy sturdy, but they're not terrible. However, there's a few down ones over there, and then that whole corner in the back, that is all down and needs to be fixed. But pretty much down to that tree line there, it's all fenced in, and there's an opening down at this corner here that we'd need to put a gate on. But for the most part, I think it's ready to go. Now, I have no idea what kind of quality the grass is. My husband says, oh, let's just get cows. The cows are not going to be able to eat all of the grass. We have 30 acres, 20 of which are pastures, and this is just one of them. And I still need to do a lot of research about keeping cows and what they need and how much grass they need and all that stuff. I know we've got plenty to have some cows, but I've been keeping my eye out online to see if I can find a used tractor or something that we can, properly take care of the grass. So back behind that pasture, there's another pasture. And then there's a couple more over there and over there. They're separated by some trees. And then behind these trees here, there's another pasture. So here I am at this tree line here. And our property goes to this row of pine trees here. There's another farm over there. So this is the area back behind the little playground area and where I was talking about putting the orchard. There's this nice big area here. None of this has fencing, which is okay. We will eventually get to that. But this area behind this row of trees does have some fencing. Also not in great condition, but it's better than nothing. Here is the next small paddock with some partial fencing. Definitely a lot of it needs to be replaced, repaired. These fence posts look slightly better condition. They're definitely sturdier than those little ones in that big pasture over there. And then there's Lane here. Maybe it's a little silly to some of you that I'm out here in the snow giving you a little tour of the homestead in the middle of winter, but I'm just so happy to be outside right now. I mean, I went outside when we had the cold temperatures and the crazy amounts of snow that still hasn't melted, but it is in the 40s today, and I'm actually starting to get a little bit hot walking around out here. So the sun was shining earlier today. It's just so nice to be out here and not want to go back in within, 15-20 minutes because my hands are freezing off. And I really do not mind the cold and don't mind working in the cold some, but I also just love to be outside. So when it's nice like this, I did not want to miss my opportunity to be out here and thought I'd just bring you guys along. The lane kind of keeps going down that way, but here's another section. There's the poor fence on this side behind those trees, but just trees over here. This is actually quite a thicker area. It's not just a line of trees, it's kind of a big chunk of trees. There's an old deer stand in there. So I'll take you back to see the back pasture. We're almost to the end of that. You can see what I'm talking about. This is not just a line of trees. This is quite a bit of pine trees here. All pine trees, I believe. Haven't really walked through that area. But here's the end of that first pasture. And now here we are coming out into the back pasture. It is so beautiful out here. I'm at the other end of that pasture. Not quite the end, but I'm at the end of this stand of trees. And it does go back further that way. And all the way back behind those pine trees, there's like a little lane. You could drive your truck or whatnot behind the trees. And then all the way up, to the driveway. So now I'm walking up through a path in the woods up towards this restalled lean-to shelter of some sort we've got back here. Over that way is the pasture areas. I came in, there's a little path that comes in here. And our property goes back that direction quite a ways, and then comes in closer up to the house this direction. But we will figure out exactly what we're going to use that for eventually. Now now I'm back up towards the house past that lean-to and into what we call the pet cemetery. There's literally a pet cemetery here. I have never watched that movie, and I do not intend to now, especially since, well, one, I don't like scary movies, and two, now I have a pet cemetery basically in my backyard. So the previous owners have, headstones and little placards and things for various animals. There's dogs, maybe cats. There's definitely at least one horse. I mean, these are covered up with snow right now. But this one, pretty sure is a horse. There's a horseshoe on top. Which, we thought was actually pretty cool. You can't see it right now, but over here there's a big burn pile area. And then over by those chairs is a small fire pit. And we've already put it to good use. Had, cooked hot dogs and marshmallows one night, and before it got cold. I don't know if you could hear my daughter in the background, being Elsa, going, ah! She's been playing Elsa all day, and she's having a great time out here. So am I. And I hope you enjoyed the quick little tour of our homestead. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.